For centuries, humans had been seen as nothing more than brawn. In the galaxy's hierarchical system, advanced species like the Felidar and the Elorians viewed Earth's inhabitants as strong, durable, but intellectually primitive. The Felidar Empire, a feline-like race known for their sharp intellect and advanced technology, ruled over Earth. To them, humans were ideal laborers, soldiers, and workers for tasks requiring brute strength. The galaxy's perception of humans was simple, useful, but not sophisticated. Earth had become a supplier of manpower, its people scattered across the galaxy, working as miners, soldiers, or manual laborers on distant planets. The Felidar kept humans in check by restricting their education and access to advanced technology. Human intellect was stifled, and those with potential were either forced into labor or ignored. The galaxy thrived on this arrangement. After all, humans were perfect for war and hard labor, but they were not seen as thinkers or inventors. But in the quiet corners of Earth, hidden from Felidar surveillance, a scientist named Dr. Mara Callahan was determined to change that perception. Born in the Martian mining colonies, Mara had seen firsthand the exploitation of her people. Her parents had died in a mining accident, victims of Felidar negligence. That tragedy fueled her drive to challenge the status quo. She didn't believe in the narrative that humans were only muscle and bone. Instead, she theorized that hidden within human biology was a dormant potential, a cerebral power that could rival the galaxy's greatest minds. Mara's research led her to a groundbreaking discovery, the Cerebral Nexus, a network in the human brain capable of far more than anyone had imagined. If activated, this latent cognitive system could unlock incredible intellectual abilities, from advanced problem-solving to telepathic communication. This wasn't just about proving humans were more than laborers, it was about unlocking a new era of human evolution. Yet, Mara knew the dangers of her discovery. If the Felidar learned about the Cerebral Nexus, they would stop at nothing to suppress it. They couldn't allow humans to rise above their station. So, Mara worked in secret, forming a small team of experts, individuals who shared her vision. Together, they prepared for a daring experiment, to activate the Cerebral Nexus in a human subject and prove once and for all that humanity was more than just brawn. But time was running out. The Felidar presence on Earth was growing, and rumors of human unrest were spreading. As Mara's team worked in the shadows, the galaxy's rulers tightened their grip, unaware that a revolution was brewing. Dr. Mara Callahan wasn't just fighting for science, she was fighting for the future of her species. And deep in the Felidar ranks, a soldier named Ryan Cade, unaware of the role he was about to play, continued his duties, waiting unknowingly for the moment that would change everything. In an underground bunker hidden deep beneath the Appalachian Mountains, Dr. Mara Callahan and her team gathered around a holographic table. The dim glow of the screens illuminated their faces, each reflecting the gravity of their mission. For years, they had worked in secret, preparing for this moment, the activation of the Cerebral Nexus in a human subject. "We're running out of time," Mara said, her voice low but urgent. "The Felidar are increasing their military presence on Earth. We need to make our move before they tighten their grip even further." Her team nodded in agreement. They were a small but capable group, each member an expert in their field. Kira, a former Felidar military strategist, had defected to join the human cause. Lionel, an engineer, specialized in reverse engineering alien technology. Jack, a skilled hacker, had breached Felidar security systems multiple times without detection. And Eva, a biochemist, had been instrumental in understanding the human genome's potential. The plan was simple but dangerous. They had identified the perfect candidate for the experiment, Ryan Cade, a battle-hardened soldier who had served in the Felidar shock troops for nearly a decade. His physical resilience and latent intelligence made him an ideal subject for activating the Cerebral Nexus. Lionel leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "And if something goes wrong? We've run simulations, but this is uncharted territory. If we fail, we might not just lose Cade, we could expose everything. Mara met his gaze. I know the risks. But if we don't act, the Felidar will continue to see us as nothing more than laborers and soldiers. We have to show them, and the galaxy, that humans are more than just muscle. Jack, who had been quietly monitoring the bunker's security feeds, spoke up. Felidar patrols are getting closer to this sector. We may not have much time left before they find us. The team exchanged tense looks. Kira, who knew the Felidar's methods well, broke the silence. They're preparing for something big. I've seen them consolidate their forces like this before, usually right before a major operation. Whatever they're planning, it's going to change everything for Earth. If we don't do this now, we might never get another chance. Mara nodded. Then we move forward. The next day, Ryan Cade was summoned to the bunker under the guise of a routine medical evaluation. When he arrived, Mara greeted him personally, her expression serious. Ryan, she began, I need to ask you something important. You've been fighting in the Felidar's wars for years, but what if I told you that you could be more than just a soldier? That you have the potential to change the fate of humanity? Ryan blinked, clearly caught off guard. What do you mean? Mara explained the Cerebral Nexus, her discovery of the dormant potential within the human brain, and her plan to unlock it. She told him how the galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries, and how he could be the first to prove them wrong. Ryan hesitated. Why me? Why not someone smarter, more qualified? Mara's eyes softened. Because you're more than you think you are. You've survived battles that would break most people. Your strength isn't just in your body, it's in your mind. I need someone who's not just capable, but who's willing to fight for something greater. Ryan stood in silence for a moment, the weight of her words settling in. Then he nodded. I'm in. With Ryan's consent, the team prepared for the activation. As they hooked him up to the complex machinery, Mara felt a mixture of hope and fear. This was the culmination of years of research, the first step toward a new future for humanity. If they succeeded, it would change everything. If they failed, the consequences could be catastrophic. As the process began, the bunker fell into a tense silence. The fate of their world, and possibly the entire galaxy, rested in this single experiment. Ryan Cade lay motionless on the metal table, electrodes carefully placed around his head. The room hummed with the low-frequency sounds of advanced machinery, while holographic monitors flickered with streams of data. Dr. Mara Callahan stood nearby, watching closely as her team made the final preparations. This was the moment they had been working toward for years, the activation of the Cerebral Nexus. Vitals are stable, Eva reported, her fingers moving quickly over a control panel. Brain activity is normal. Good, Mara said, her eyes focused on Ryan. Let's begin. The plan was simple in theory but dangerous in practice. The Nexus, a dormant network within the human brain, had the potential to unlock extraordinary intellectual and cognitive abilities. But it had never been activated in a living subject. If something went wrong, Ryan could suffer catastrophic damage, and all their years of work would be for nothing. Mara felt a knot of tension in her stomach. She had reviewed the simulations countless times. They had accounted for every variable, but there were always unknowns. She glanced at Ryan, who lay still, his eyes closed, unaware of the changes about to take place. Initiating neural stimulation, Lionel said, his voice steady despite the stakes. The machinery whirred to life, and the electrodes began delivering precise pulses of energy into Ryan's brain, targeting the Nexus. For a moment, nothing happened. The room remained quiet, the monitors displaying only routine brain activity. Then Ryan's body jolted. His heart rate spiked, and the monitors flashed red warnings. Heart rate elevated. Eva called out, her eyes wide. Mara leaned over Ryan. Ryan, can you hear me? Ryan's eyes snapped open. For a moment, they were unfocused, disoriented, as if he were looking at the world for the first time. His breath came in quick, shallow bursts, and his muscles tensed, straining against the restraints that held him to the table. "Relax, Ryan," Mara said in a calm voice. "You're okay. Just breathe." Ryan's breathing slowly evened out, and his gaze began to focus. Something in his expression shifted. His eyes, once filled with uncertainty, now seemed sharper, more aware. He sat up slowly, and Mara released the restraints, watching him carefully. "How do you feel?" she asked. Ryan blinked, his eyes scanning the room with a clarity that hadn't been there before. I feel different," he said, his voice steady but laced with wonder. "It's like everything's clearer. I can see things, understand things, faster." He reached out toward one of the nearby monitors, his hand hovering over the controls. Without touching it, the interface flickered to life, responding to his unspoken commands. The team watched in awe as Ryan manipulated the holographic interface with his mind, accessing systems and data streams effortlessly. "It worked," Lionel whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. "The Nexus is fully active." Mara smiled, a deep sense of relief washing over her. They had done it. They had unlocked the hidden potential within Ryan, proving that humanity was capable of far more than the galaxy had ever believed. But the moment of triumph was short-lived. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the bunker, the sound sharp and urgent. Jack jumped up, his fingers flying over his console. "Felidar patrols are approaching. They've breached the outer perimeter." Mara's heart raced. They had been discovered. The Felidar, always watchful, had likely caught wind of their experiment and moved in to shut them down before they could threaten their control over humanity. Ryan stood up, his movements fluid and controlled. His enhanced mind was already processing the situation faster than any of them could. He turned to Mara, his gaze steady. "What's the plan?" Mara met his eyes, her determination returning. "We fight. But this time, we're not just fighting with strength. We fight with everything we've got." Ryan nodded. For the first time in his life, he felt like more than a soldier. He felt like a weapon the galaxy had never seen before. The Felidar troops stormed toward the bunker, their sleek, black-armored vehicles cutting through the dense forest like predators on the hunt. Overhead, drones buzzed, scanning the area for signs of life. Inside the bunker, the alarm echoed through the corridors, signaling the beginning of a confrontation that Mara and her team had hoped to avoid. Ryan Cade stood in the center of the operations room, his mind sharp and focused in a way it had never been before. He could feel the enhanced clarity coursing through him, his senses sharper, his thoughts faster. Every second seemed to stretch, each decision coming to him as naturally as breathing. "We have minutes before they breach the bunker," Kira said, her military instincts taking over as she studied the holographic map displaying the Felidar's advancing units. "They'll cut through the external defenses quickly. We're outnumbered and outgunned." Mara stood beside her, her face grim but resolute. "We don't need to outgun them. Ryan is our weapon now." Ryan stepped forward, his confidence growing with each passing second. "I can see their movements. It's like I can predict what they're going to do next." Mara nodded. "The Nexus enhances more than your cognitive abilities. It's giving you a strategic advantage, allowing you to process information faster than even the Felidar can." Kira raised an eyebrow. "Can he stop an entire Felidar battalion?" Ryan met her gaze. "Not alone. But with the right strategy, we can turn their strength against them." He approached the holographic map, his mind working at lightning speed. He traced a path across the forest, identifying weak points in the Felidar formation. Their drones are sweeping in predictable patterns. If we time it right, we can blind them long enough to set traps. We'll funnel them into the narrow passes leading to the bunker. That's where we make our stand. Kira studied the map, nodding slowly. It's risky, but it could work. We'll need to coordinate the traps and countermeasures precisely. Leave that to me, Jack said from his console. I'll hack into their drone systems, feed them false data. We can buy ourselves a few extra minutes. Lionel and Eva were already preparing the makeshift defenses, setting up energy barriers and booby traps along the corridors leading to the entrance. The bunker, once a hidden research facility, was about to become a battlefield. As the Felidar forces drew closer, Mara pulled Ryan aside. This is our chance to prove that humanity is more than they believe. If we survive this, we can take the fight to them on a larger scale. Ryan's eyes were steady, his resolve unshakable. I won't let them take us down. We fight for more than survival now. We fight for our future. Outside, the first wave of Felidar soldiers reached the bunker's perimeter. They moved with deadly precision, their advanced weapons gleaming in the dim light. But as they closed in, Ryan's traps activated. Explosive charges detonated, collapsing the narrow paths and forcing the Felidar into choke points. Drones spun out of control as Jack's hacking fed them disorienting signals. Now! Ryan shouted. Kira led the charge, coordinating the defense with military precision, while Ryan moved like a blur, his heightened abilities making him a one-man force. He anticipated every Felidar move, countering with deadly accuracy. The Felidar, who had always seen humans as inferior, were now facing a new kind of opponent, one who could outthink and outmaneuver them at every turn. For the first time in centuries, the Felidar felt something they hadn't expected from humans: fear. The battle raged for what felt like hours, but in reality, it was over in minutes. The Felidar, caught in the traps and overwhelmed by Ryan's newfound abilities, fell back, retreating into the forest. The bunker's defenses held, and the remaining Felidar forces withdrew, licking their wounds. As the dust settled, Mara approached Ryan, her face a mix of relief and pride. You did it. Ryan, breathing heavily but still composed, looked out at the battlefield. We did it. But this is just the beginning. The Felidar know we're a threat now. They'll come back with more. Mara nodded. And we'll be ready. We've proven today that humans are more than just muscle. We've shown the galaxy that we can fight, and win. Ryan glanced at his team: Kira, Lionel, Jack, and Eva, each of them battered but alive. Together, they had sparked the beginning of a rebellion, one that would change the course of human history. We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore, Ryan said. We're fighting for every human who's ever been underestimated. It's time the galaxy knew what we're truly capable of.